spiritual awakening, ETs, soul evolution, soul elevation, and ascension. These are the things we're going to chat about on the show today with the wonderful Cara Goodwin. So it's going to be an exciting conversation. Stay tuned.
You got to accentuate the positive. Wow, I feel good. A little bit of feel good goes a long way.
You're listening to Karen Swain, teacher of deliberate creation, accentuating the positive, showing you a way to a better life.
Accentuating the positive, it's not just fad, it's sanity. Who in their right mind would accentuate anything else?
If you feel like that's what you want to do.
G'day, and welcome to another show, Accentuating the Positive with Karen Swain. And we've got the gorgeous Cara Goodwin in the studio. Welcome, Cara.
Hello, Karen. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Well, it's lovely. It's wonderful to have you on the show. Actually, recently, Cara had me on her podcast show. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Cara in a moment. We had a fabulous conversation, and we've already had a fabulous conversation just before we hit the live. Lots to talk about. Let me tell you a little bit about Cara. So she spelled her name Kara, and I was expecting to call her Cara, and she's like, no, it's Cara.
Right.
Because, the Karen thing. So after a series of tragedies several years ago, Cara's life was turned upside down. As someone who was more materially focused back then, this inspired her to explore a more spiritual life. Today, Cara Goodwin is the host of Soul Elevation podcast, where she explores ascension, spiritual awakening, energy healing, extraterrestrial connections, and consciousness. As a skilled energy healer and meditation guide, Cara empowers others to deepen their spiritual connection through transformative practices. Her debut book, Your Authentic Awakening, is a guide to everyday spiritual living, provides a roadmap to embrace a spiritually awakened and authentic life. And your podcast, what's your website? Is it caragoodwin.com?
Yes. Yeah. And then the podcast is on soulelevationpodcast.com.
So it's on YouTube and all the audio podcasts.
You can find it everywhere, but that's kind of the central place for the podcast. It has its own website as well.
Do you do like Rumble or any of the other ones, Odyssey?
I don't. No, I haven't started doing. No, it's just YouTube and then the audio platforms.
Yeah, because I've been streaming on a whole lot of different video platforms for years. I used to upload to about 6 video platforms before I went live on the network, and then I've just cut it down to the 3, which is Rumble, Odyssey, and YouTube. But I find on the alternative platforms, it's more news orientated. There's not a lot of spiritual content.
Oh, interesting.
Most of the consciousness spiritual content are on, because YouTube's the biggest one. But it'd be great to get more of that content on those other platforms. I think Rumble is more of a political platform. You can find consciousness podcasts, and Odyssey is a bit more eclectic. But again, I've found not a lot of conscious podcasts. So what are the luscious ladies online? Hey, Kristen, she says, g'day from Salt Lake City. And Shirley from Canada, Vladdy from Germany. Hello, gang. You're all online. So we're going to talk about, Cara and I were talking about her spiritual awakening. I thought it was during COVID, but she said, no, it was back in 2016. And I said, yeah, 2016 was a big year. It was another 9-year. We're in a 9-year now. And I don't know about you guys listening online, but how's your year been? Has it been transformative? Has it been disruptive? Have you had a lot of changes? I was telling Cara that I was watching one of my favorite YouTubers, Yana Yinton. What's her name? Joanna. Anyway, I've forgotten her name. Who's a blogger. She's got like 6 million followers. And I caught up with her over the weekend, and she was saying that this year, she broke up with the husband. Her beloved dog died. She moved house. And I'm like, yep, a 9-year. So what was going on for you back then? And who were you before you were doing all this?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me here, Karen. Thank you for those who are joining live. And please forgive me with if I start coughing. When we were doing we were catching up before we started, and I had this coughing fit, and you can kind of hear in my voice, I've got this something going on. Actually, I just returned from Germany. I was there and I heard that somebody is here from Germany. So I was just in Berlin and loving it there. But the quick turnaround, the short trip, something anyway, kind of, I've ended up not hugely well. But anyway, it's such a joy to be with everybody. So who was I before my awakening? How did my awakening happen? I was in the corporate world for 15 years before my awakening, and I was living a very mainstream life. As you said in my introduction, I had a materialistic view of life, and I don't necessarily mean that from like I was collecting shoes and bags, and it wasn't like a hugely materialistic in that sense, but it was focused on the surface. When I say materialistic, I mean material world. Like I really trusted my five senses. I trusted the world in terms of what I could see, what I could touch, what I could hear, what I could taste. And I wasn't really exploring or trusting what was happening under the surface. And so that was, I was in, like I said, the corporate world for about 15 years. And then we moved abroad. I live in America now, but we moved to Italy. And I stopped working at that time. We moved for my husband's job, and I stopped working, but I didn't really take the time. That wasn't kind of like, oh, now I've got time to explore meditation and understand myself as a soul. I didn't really take that opportunity. It really took it took a 9-year. It took 2016. And my life just like fell apart. And for me, that was just a lot of really difficult things happening very close together, relating to my family, and my husband's family. So it began with the death of my sister-in-law. She took her life, and she was not only my sister-in-law, but she was one of my best friends. And so that was very, very difficult. I had a few weeks after that, our dog died.
Oh, wow.
And then my stepdad underwent surgery because he was deteriorating, and he had surgery on his brainstem. Luckily, he came out of that well, but that was a big question mark of like, what's happening to him and what's going to happen with this surgery. A few weeks after that, my mother-in-law was hit by a motorbike as she crossed the street. So she was in hospital dealing with that. And then my stepmom went into the ICU with heart failure, and what saved her was a heart transplant. So that was a whole journey from she's not well, and then getting so bad that she's going to the top of the heart transplant list, and we don't know if she's going to get a heart. You can just imagine. I'm like condensing everything down, but each one of these things was its own kettle of fish, and then it was just one thing happening. When you're trying to deal with one thing, then you get the news about the next thing. So all of this was happening, like I said, while we were living abroad. So we weren't even able to easily be with family while our family was going through all of this. My family was in America. My husband's family's in England. And so that kind of added another element of trauma to it, because you're just like, you feel so helpless and you can't kind of be there to be with your people, and go through that together and comfort them and receive the comfort. And so that I was sharing with Karen before we started, I got to the end of 2016 and I was like, how is it still 2016? Like, I remember being on this bus in Bologna. And I was just like, I think it was the beginning of December. And I was like, no, it has got to be like 2019 by now. Like, there is no way it is still 2016. When is this year going to end? It was bonkers. It was just such a crazy time. So it was really through that happening that I then, I started to explore meditation. It had been something that I had been interested in for years. I would come across studies or news reports, meditation is the key to calmness and people are being transformed by meditation. And I would try it, but I didn't ever feel like I knew what I was doing and I wasn't getting any results with it. Just trying to like sit down and not think for a little while was not doing anything for me.
Huh.
And so as I was going through this coping and dealing with this trauma that I was undergoing, I had this, I mean, we could even call it like a Hail Mary, I guess, but not in the religious sense, but in the sporting sense. I don't know, Karin, if you guys like in rugby, do you guys ever like in American football, you will do like a Hail Mary and it's like this really like long pass that's probably not going to do anything, but you have no other choice, Do you know this?
Well, we might do it. I'm not a football fan,
Okay.
so maybe that happens. I don't know, but yeah, I've not heard that before, called a Hail Mary. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Cool.
I, feel like I threw this Hail Mary, but in the sporting sense, because I'm not Catholic, so I never have said the Hail Mary in the religious sense, but I remember I'd taken my kids to school and I was walking home and I was having this conversation in my head with a God that I didn't know if he existed. I mean, I was pretty sure God existed. We were talking about this too before we started recording. Like, was I agnostic? It's hard, like when you look back.
Yeah.
And it's like, was I agnostic? I wasn't atheist. I know I never really like flipped that switch to like completely not believing.
Uh-huh.
But I think I did get into the agnostic of like, I just don't know. I don't know if there's a God. But I think it's more accurate to say that I think that I do think that I believed in God, but that I felt like I was this background player. Like wasn't worthy of God's attention. God wouldn't know who I was. And, I hadn't been putting any like effort out there. So why would God do anything to help me?
Oh, so much to say about that. As if, you need to be worthy of God's attention. Gee, social conditioning. I was telling Kara that this week on Elevate, we're going to talk about social conditioning, how pervasive it is, how it infiltrates our thinking, every aspect of our life. And that's one of them, right? Mm-hmm. To think that there is a he, God, he's a he, and he's judging you and he's paying attention to you based on if you're a good or bad person. Right. Wow. And also you said to me before we went live that you don't know if you were, agnostic because you were interested in what is called the paranormal. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. That was another, because Karin was saying like, were you agnostic? How, before you kind of had your awakening? And I'm like, I know I've always been interested in the paranormal. So then we had another discussion about what do we consider the paranormal? So I may not be even using the right word, because for Karin, that's more of ghosts, demons, kind of the underworld part of the spiritual. But for me, I really mean more of ghosts. Yes. Like I was saying to her that if there was a lull in the conversation, especially with somebody I didn't know very well, one of the things I would be likely to ask somebody is like, have you ever seen a ghost? Or have you ever seen a UFO or anything, that like, cause I've always loved that kind of stuff. But I also like, I couldn't resist angel stories or like divine intervention. And so I consider kind of all of that, or that's what I was using the terms supernatural with. But I would even like read books on children's past life memories. For example, I remember when I was nursing my kids, and I always had a book on the go, and I would be really drawn to like children's past life memories and things like that. So those kind of topics really, I was interested in what else there was out there, but I kind of felt like while it was interesting, it was inaccessible to me,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. This network, there's a lot of shows with the heading paranormal this, paranormal that. And I've never really used that word. And so joining the network, the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, I started to think about this word paranormal. One of the first shows I did with Michelle Durocher, who has a couple of shows on the network. It's like I've never seen, I think that people talk about psychic ability or speaking to dead people, mediumship, and as you say, they lump it into the paranormal. I've never seen it as paranormal. To me, it's normal. It's normal. But to the majority of the human race, it's paranormal. Like it's not normal. What does the word para mean? Like not normal. But the whole ghost, Halloween-y, scary, bump in the night, ghost story things, to me, that's more like the paranormal, making the normal into a paranormal. Yes. Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think a lot of that too was like, I didn't have somebody like you as a friend or, as a sister or anything where it was just like, I was interested in this stuff, but there weren't a lot of people that I had that reflection of who like were also interested in it or who I could talk about it with or who had the talents or the stories or, whatever it might be. It was just something that like was happening to other people that I would come across their stories and be, and I think that, we can really get kind of deeper into the why of that, because when I look at it, it makes me wonder, like, why was I interested? And I wonder how much of it was that I was afraid. I was afraid of dying or because I think it's since I was a child, I've been interested in stories where people were talking about divine intervention or things like that, or even ghost stories where it's like, that means there's something more. Like if you're seeing your grandmother who has died in a ghost form, then she's not dead, right? So I think that there was something maybe psychological in there. And I see, Kristen, did you have any past life memories or did your children? Well, it never really came up with my children. They never really said anything about it. And I didn't really growing up. And there has been something that has come up very recently with the past life, which is unusual for me. So it's a continuing evolution, but no, so I know that you're probably asking that because I was interested in that topic and reading books about it. And I don't know, it wasn't that my kids were saying things that were unusual. I think it was just because I had children. I don't know. It was like maybe this merger between like having little kids at that time and then something spiritual that was like wanting to come out because it was so dormant within me at that time. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, it is a good Kristen. A good Kristen. A good question.
It's also a good Kristen. Yeah.
It's also a good Kristen. I forget that, I'm so immersed in this world. I've never thought that aliens weren't real. I've never thought that the afterlife, I'm just so immersed. I forget that people aren't, and that it's not a part of their everyday life. I just forget that. And for the majority of the population, it's still not. But we've come a long way in the last, 50 years, 50, 60 years I've been on the planet. But your story reminds me of, I'm going to go blank on the name. Somebody else I had on the show, and her name will come to me, who was who started to look into meditation. Reiki, did Reiki courses when she was young, But again, when she thought about a career and carving out a life and making money and buying houses and all that sort of things that we think about when we're young, she didn't think that any of that would take her anywhere. And so she completely ignored it and became an executive in the corporate world and went to the top of her station and earned lots of money and bought the penthouse apartment over, Sydney Harbour. She was is Australian. And it wasn't until her partner got sick that she made a decision to start meditating again, with the thought, maybe I can help her some way if I start meditating. I don't know where that thought came from. And she started channeling, like pretty much straight into the meditation. All the Krishna came through, all these masters started talking to her. And and so she works as a healer like you now. She works as a channel and a healer. So when you started meditating, like when you stopped trying to stop your thoughts, that's something that I think we all go wrong with meditation. People think that meditation is about stopping your thoughts. And I've always thought that meditation is about listening to a different thought, not the thought that says, what will I have for dinner? How do I become successful? But listening to a deeper thought, like your soul talking to you, your higher self talking to you. And so it's more about listening than trying to stop thinking. I think that's where everyone goes wrong with meditation. What happened to you when you really picked it up again?
Yeah, well, I had to get a teacher. That was really critical because I wasn't able to get anywhere with it when I was just trying it by myself. So that was where I started there. And I took baby steps, really. It was just kind of watching the breath, just relaxing the body. And it took, looking back, it was early on because it was a long time ago now, but, it wasn't right away. But I think the first kind of experience that I had that was beyond my five senses was light descending from above. So with my eyes closed, just this, I'd say spontaneous, but I was meditating, but just that I could see inside myself somehow that there was light coming down from above and I could track it, like moving down my body, and it felt warm.
Cool.
And I didn't know what it was, but it moved me to tears. Like I was so moved by it. And it really felt like something so benevolent and so, it didn't feel like it was a being, but it just felt like there was some communion happening, and so
Ooh.
it was really beautiful. It was as simple as that, and I was, like I said, I was in tears. It was so beautiful.
The light of your own soul. I think you were perceiving the light of your own soul. When you say that, I'm reminded of, it's becoming more and more, especially with the telepathy tapes becoming so viral, but more and more prevalent now, the children that are seeing with blindfolds on. I don't know what you call that. And years ago, and I was listening to, I've just realized my computer's not plugged in, listening to a young boy, he was about 7 or 8, 9, maybe, talking about it. And the interviewer was asking, how do you see it? And he said, I just ask for the light, and the light comes down and into my body, and then I just use the light to see. And I'm like, whoa, right? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And that makes me think too that there's and it kind of goes to Kristen's question too, because there's so many steps along my path where something will happen in terms of like a clairvoyant experience or some other kind of perception of energy. And I will immediately, like my first thought before I even realize I'm thinking it is, this is a remembrance. And it's like I'm remembering how I could see even as a baby. And it's not necessarily that I think it's how I see as a baby. It's like, this is how babies see or how toddlers see. And there was a point where I feel like I learned how people see. in like the more human restrained way. And so one example of this is I have this memory of being, I think I was actually in my stroller and being outside my house. And I think my mom or somebody was taking me on a walk around the neighborhood and looking at the trees. And I could see this like vapory green around the leaves of the trees. And they looked massive, you know, because you're so little. And it seems like there was a point where I just sharpened it was like I sharpened my vision so that I was seeing the way that like my mom saw or my parents saw, or you know, the people around me saw, where you in sharpening it, you increase the definition, but you lose that the aura, right? Does this make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely.
So like
Because
if you're
when
seeing the aura, you're seeing like diffused light. It's not as sharp,
energy, yeah. Well, when
right?
people teach you how to see auras through your outside eyes, your physical eyes, they ask you to blur your focus, like
Mm,
blur your focus. So they actually ask you to not have it so sharp, like literally blur
right.
your focus. But I love what you say about that, because babies, and I say this all the time about psychic awareness, like we come in with that is our only sense that is online at the time we hit the planet, right? We're not seeing through our physical eyes. We're not hearing through our physical ears. We're not smelling. We're not tasting. We're not even feeling through our skin as much. It all has to come online. The only sense we're using is that psychic, intuitive. We know exactly what our mother thinks. We're telepathically communicating, and yeah, and all of it has to come online. Some babies, it comes online quicker than others. Like you'll see some babies within a week or something, they're looking at you, they know exactly, you know,
Mm,
they're focused on you. And some take weeks to start focusing. Yeah, it's
yeah.
interesting, isn't it? But
Yeah.
the psychic sense is so innate. It's the only sense that's operating when we hit the planet. And then as
Right.
we develop the other senses, we ignore that sense,
Yeah.
unless you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, for my own path, which I think was a pretty mainstream, you know, experience from the beginning, and it seems as though there was this training, like I was learning how to be human and how to like how does everybody perceive, okay, we sharpen the vision, we, you know, we don't we you know, you can walk into a room and pick up on like, oh, that person's upset, that person, and they're upset at them and they're ashamed, and you know, and all of this, and then it's you kind of learn like, oh, okay, well we ignore that, we go by what they're saying. If they're telling me that they're okay, everything's okay, you know what I mean? And so there it's like there's this training of how to be human, and then with the awakening process there's like a intentionally trying to forget the things that we've undergone in our training, you know?
Absolutely, Cara, you've just hit the nail on. This is exactly what I was thinking about yesterday, as I was contemplating the next show coming up, talking about social conditioning. The spiritual awakening process is untangling all the social conditioning that happens from the moment you hit this experience. You could be even in utero. You're being
Yeah.
conditioned to think in a certain way, to believe certain things. And then you have a spiritual awakening. You go, hang on, everything I've learned is kind of a lie. I've got to
Yeah.
untangle all this. Like, who am I really? What's the world all about, really? What is my place in the world? Like, how did that look for you?
It's still ongoing, you know, I still it you know, because one of my initial for a long time, my spiritual awakening was very love and light.
Uh-huh.
And so I was not interested in the shadow, whether that be in my own shadow or the collective shadow. And so you know, that has come to light a lot in this 9 year in 2025. The
Uh-huh.
shadow has come front and center. And there were things with, you know, with the awakening process, there are parts of, when you talk about this is all a lie, this is an illusion. And there are a lot of different layers to that lie and this illusion. So we can look at it in terms of like, oh, there's the spiritual nature to how this reality that's underlying this reality. And that's really the real truth. But then we're
Right.
here in this human reality. And, you can look at it kind of from that perspective. But then you can go like deeper into it of like, oh, this has been actually modified to siphon from us. And all of, the kind of darker, deliberate things. And I never really wanted to go there. And this year, it's been like, oh, it's time to look at this, to understand it, to stand up. And the same with even my own shadow. In my personal experiences where I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't really need to like trudge up the traumas. I'm just going to focus on what it is that I do want, and there's something to be said for that. But for me personally, especially early in this year, it was like, you're ready now to start looking at some things that you've forgotten for like decades. And you've got some reconciling to do here energetically. And this has been a common theme. And there has been such fruit that has come out of that. It's like I trust that I wasn't supposed to really do it until I did it. But it's like, oh my God, thank you for bringing this opportunity. And it's been very inner organic, like it just shows up. And there are all these gifts that come as I do that reconciliation. And it's not an outer reconciliation. It's all within me, but it's the acceptance. It's the willingness to feel what I wouldn't let myself feel when I was going through it in real time. And the willingness to actually face, the truth of what I buried, because I kind of buried some things so fast that I never got to really, I never really let myself feel what was really being called to be felt with that. And but there have been some amazing things that have come out of that. Those when I've accepted the invitation to say, okay, it's time to heal these things. But it's the same thing with our collective. I was thinking when you're talking about social conditioning and the different ways that we kind of come to realize some of the things that are going on and what it means for us and the way that makes us feel and what we can do about it and all of that stuff. That's been something that's kind of a little bit of a newer part of my experience. So yeah, it's ongoing.
Yeah. I think the biggest psychological operation in the world has been not educating us, not reminding us about how powerful we are, about how brilliant we are, about who we really are outside, the conditioned mind, the limiting ideas. And when you were talking about you didn't delve into the shadow side until this year, I feel like when you reach outside your comfort zone and you stretch to create something that you really want, that you feel maybe you felt like you couldn't have, but now you're going to go for it. That's when you meet all the limiting programming, the shadow. That's like when you meet it, you meet all your fears there. And until you let go of those fears, that thing that you want, that thing that you're trying to create in your life doesn't really turn up, because there's this programming that's running saying you can't do that, you can't have that, this isn't possible, there's no way, no. So it's a powerful place. I just want to acknowledge all these fabulous people online.
Yes.
Vladdy said a while ago, Susan goes, wow, Vladdy, this is off topic, but it reminds me of the moment when my little sister laughed for the first time and I didn't know this emotion. Wow, that's so cool. She got overwhelmed and started crying afterwards. Oh, and hey, Diane said hello. And Susan says here, I've always believed that we choose how to become veiled at the soul level. I was heavily veiled until my mid-40s. Hi all, she says to everybody. Yeah, I think you got that right. She says, I believe the soul chooses. Yeah, the soul's choosing how veiled. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because some people come in completely awake. I've had people on the show that are completely conscious of who they are, and they never lose that. They never lose that psychic connection or that connection to their higher self or their soul, and then many of us do. Bloody be a bunch of wonderful memories with your little sister. Right. Question Bloody has here. Have you had this moment where you felt like this is the point of exiting the matrix with no return, where you knew you wouldn't be able nor want to live a typical human life?
Oh, I love this question.
Interesting
Yeah,
question.
it is. And to be really honest, this is very, very pertinent to me right now, even. Because I'm very aware of, there's like some words that you're not supposed to really talk about. I don't want to like cause any trouble, but I don't know, like the IDs,
Oh yeah.
like, is that fine? I don't know.
I don't
Like,
know. I'm not
I
the
don't want to
algorithm
get you like into
on
trouble.
YT.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? I don't know. But yeah,
Well,
the narrative is this is great. Rolling out the IDs.
yeah.
Yay, let's do this. Yeah, that's
Right.
the
And I
narrative.
feel really strongly that we need to not do that. And it came up in my personal life, and I was advising somebody very close to me, and they were just like very adamant of, no, I don't see that this is a problem, and they have all our data anyway, and I don't understand why this would be. And it was I didn't mind that we had a difference of opinion, but it was one of those like, I wonder how important it is that I am normal in that person's eyes. You know what I mean? Because it was like for me, it's such a like, it's a no-brainer. And in my world, like it is such a no-brainer that it's like, no, you absolutely, we cannot hand ourselves over because for me personally, sovereignty is really crucial. It's a huge, huge aspect of spiritual work is embodying the fullness of who we are and the truth of who we are. And we don't answer to, the people who would benefit from that choice. Because it's more and more and more the liberties that we are handing over. But anyway, so I've been having this kind of running narrative in my mind of like, I know I'm not normal, and I don't, and it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
like I don't want to be like, I don't want to be the girl next door that, and I don't mean, we have this expression in America, this expression, right? Like the girl, like just the average person next door, like mainstream. I've
We
been
have
that.
that. The girl.
Yeah, okay. I'm like, no offense to my neighbors if anybody's watching this, but I just like, I know that I'm different and I don't want to be another way. And I can't stuff the toothpaste back in the tube. Like I know too much and I can't unknow it. So, but it is this.
I had this beautiful woman on the show a couple of years ago, Nadi Hana. I want to honor
Oh,
her.
yes.
Do you remember Nadi?
I love her. I'm so sorry that she passed away.
She transitioned last year, I think. Anyway,
yeah.
She said something that stayed with me. Don't call yourself not normal or crazy. Call yourself extraordinary. Like every time you want to say I'm not normal or people think I'm crazy, like change that to people think I'm extraordinary. I'm extraordinary. Because I'm reminded of something Esther Hicks said that I heard years ago. It's like you come into a town where everyone has got one bung leg, but you've got two working legs. But it's the norm to limp. Like that's the norm. That's the way their society where everyone limps. So you come into this society and everyone says, you're not normal. You're not like the rest of us. Let me break your leg so you're like the rest of us. And you're like, no,
Oh.
this works better for me. I don't want to be like the rest of you. And it just kind of reminds me of that. It's
I
like
love that.
when you become extraordinary, or when you have a spiritual awakening, or when you remember who you are as spirit, as this infinite intelligence, having a life experience that, and exploring limitation, then that works for you better than having the limitation of only one working leg. Do you know what I mean? Even though
Yeah.
that's normal, like that's normal. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think we really have to stand up for who we are rather than saying, I'm not normal. Like I was saying to Kristen on Elevate this week, that every time I see my brother and sister-in-law, I absolutely know they don't really believe in what I talk about, but I talk as openly to them as I do to you, because it's my normal. So I talk about past lives. I talk about speaking to dead people. I say, I was speaking to, Annika's grandmother, my daughter's grandmother. She was haunting me the other day. Like I have this conversation with them, and I ignore that they don't believe in it because it's my normal.
Yeah.
And they probably go away thinking, oh God, it's hard having her around because she talks about all this crazy shit.
Yeah.
Maybe they think that. But I've been doing it for years. It's like I've been doing it for years till it becomes the normal. Like it is,
Right.
it's not the paranormal, it's the normal, because this is really where we're going, right? You're doing this, I'm doing this, you're doing your podcast show, you're doing your healings. I've been doing this for forever because it's where we're going. Like that's why, everyone online's listening to this, reading the books, making the comments, doing what you do.
Well,
Because
and I feel
this is the
that.
evolution.
Right. And I feel that so strongly that we are all changing. Yes, Susan says normal is highly overrated. Yes, I'm with you. I'm with you. I agree. And in my world, in the way that I have constructed my world, the content that I pay attention to, and the books that I read, and the people I love talking to, we all know that consciousness is changing. We see the world in a different way. We see reality in a different way. And so sometimes I have a little bit of whiplash when I get caught in like a more of a normal conversation, and it goes back to like how I thought 10 years ago. And then I'm like, oh yeah, people still are caught up in this kind of stuff, and it almost like throws me for a loop of like, oh my gosh, yeah, I thought, because when we kind of when we start seeing the world in a different way, it can be hard to remember that for some people, the world is still the way that we used to experience it,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now I have to do a station ID break. What time is it? Where am I? Where am I? And then we'll get back to this fascinating conversation. Thanks everyone for your comments and your questions. I just love them, love them, love them. So put in more. Where's my station ID? There we go.
You're listening to ATP Media, Awakening and Expanding Consciousness with Karen Swain on the United Public Radio Network and the UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM, syndicated radio hitting about 120 countries and streaming on 8 platforms.
And my guest today is Kara Goodwin, who is a healer and also another podcaster. And your podcast is called Soul Elevation. I love the name of the podcast. It's fabulous. Soul Elevation. And I was thinking about this when I was thinking about, what do I call this show today? Because I don't have the ability to sort of call it something that we've talked about, because I have to call it something before we talk about it. So I'm like, I'm just going to call the show the name of her podcast. It's such a good name. I think that a lot of us think that the soul or God is the supreme being, the be all, the end all, the higher, the mighty, when they're either spiritually focused through religion or through a more conscious evolution. But the soul is evolving, and as the soul evolves, God evolves, right? It's not a fixed thing. And so every experience, I want to call them experience or trauma that we go through, and 2016 really was like that sledgehammer moment, waking you up. We evolve our soul or elevate our soul. Yeah, it makes a difference. Like What do you want to say about that? And why did you call the show Soul Elevation?
Yeah, well, I agree with you. And I agree with, I'm trying to remember in the comments, somebody was saying about the soul chooses. I believe that we choose, Susan said, I've always believed that we choose how much to become veiled at a soul level. And I was heavily veiled until my mid 40s. And I think that that's part, like you're saying, I agree 1,000% that we have this evolution that's happening at the soul level.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's why we come here. A lot of
Mhm.
times we might, especially when we're going through spiritual development, spiritual evolution, we may think like, why would I come here? You know, when we understand that there's more than here.
Mhm.
And I believe that is there are a lot of opportunities for growth and evolution from a soul perspective through the human experience, because when we're
Exactly.
on this planet, we have so much diversity. We have so much diversity in terms of beliefs and the different realities. We have a billion different realities happening, and we have so many species. You know, I don't know that I don't know that there are a lot of other planets that have such a diversity of species, whether it's
Yeah.
animals and plants and minerals and all of that. You know, it's a very diverse planet. We have a lot of opportunity, but there's a lot of you know, it's not a hugely harmonious place in a lot of ways. And so that presents to us opportunities to work on our spiritual nature, because we have so many ways that we get triggered and so many challenges here on this planet to overcome, whether it's our health, whether it's our beliefs, whether it's our traumas, our thoughts, whatever it might be. But we have these opportunities, and our soul wants that. Our soul, you know, the way that I understand it is there are a lot of other easier incarnations that we can have in other places.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've heard this conversation on the other side where people are looking at the Earth experience, and it's been said that when you choose an Earth experience, you do so because of the accelerated soul evolution, the accelerated growth of the soul. Like you come
Yeah.
into this level of density, it means that you're really going to accelerate your soul expansion or soul growth, because of what you're choosing to go through. And I like to remind people or tell people that when we do choose the Earth experience, we don't do it in a linear experience, like I'll have one life and then see how I go and have a life review and then come back and do another one. Like we place our consciousness through all time and space. Like I'll go to Earth during Lemuria and during Atlantis, and then I'll run with the dinosaurs, and then I'll come in here and I'll come in there, and like we place ourselves through all time and space all at once. It's kind of so confusing, but yeah, it's a big decision to have the Earth experience, but much benefit to the soul elevation.
Yes.
Soul evolution. There's some great questions here. Susan says, have you felt that Gaia is evolving too?
Yes, I do feel that. And I feel that it's all happening in lockstep. You know, as we're recording this, we've just had such a powerful week, the week that we just came out of. Um, okay, so I'm in the US and we were having the Northern Lights here. We don't get the Northern Lights where I live.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're all over the world. I haven't seen them in Sydney, but apparently they have been visible in Sydney where I am, but in the country more so. Like I'm watching these posts online of
Yeah.
places that would never have seen them, showing these spectacular photographs of the Northern Lights, purple skies, pink and green skies. Oh, amazing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I want to go there. Like, where is that? And some of the places are like quite close to me. Like we thought once upon a time, we thought we had to go all the way up to Norway or down to is it the Antarctic or the Arctic, which is the bottom one?
Antarctica.
The
Yeah.
Antarctic to see that all. But yeah, what do you think about that? I was thinking about this the other day. What do you feel that phenomena is, that the Northern
Well,
Lights are being more
we
readily seen everywhere?
that was in conjunction with some major solar flares that we had. And we also had these geomagnetic storms. And so the two things, the sun firing off intense energy that was directed at the earth, that's going to have an effect on us. But then when we also are having these changes to the geomagnetic storm, or the geomagnetic field around the planet, that changes what radiation it can get in. This also notably was on the 11/11 portal. So this happened on Tuesday, November 11th. And so I get the notifications when there are solar flares and when there are geomagnetic storms. And so Monday and Tuesday, it was just like constant. And there were some big ones. And so then when we're seeing these northern lights, because not everybody's going to get the notifications and know that these things are happening, but everybody was noticing the northern lights. So people, like my husband was telling me, "Oh, I'm getting pictures from home." We were flying at the time. And he's like, "I'm getting pictures from home that the northern lights are in our neighborhood." And I was like, I'm like, one, the guys, there's a guy chat. The guys are out there taking pictures of the northern lights and sending them to each other. These are
Cool.
not people who would be listening to this episode. They're not they're not interested in.
So when you say home, you're talking about the UK. He's saying home, and he's from the UK,
home
right?
in the US, like our
in
home,
the US.
where we live.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and in
because
fact,
you were in Germany. That's right.
Right, but I was flying back. I'm looking at my phone because I want to show you a picture, because this was on the plane. This was out my window. We were
Wow.
flying right next to the Northern Lights.
City? What city is that over?
So we were flying from DC to Indianapolis. So this was somewhere, on the eastern kind of, probably maybe like Virginia or.
So for people listening on radio, what I'm looking at, put it up again. What we're looking at is we're looking at lights, as you would see, like we're looking at, a city
through
underneath.
A plane window.
It actually looks like a UFO. It looks like
a
white sort of disc shape with this beautiful sort of aqua green light all around it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
it's
it was amazing. And I guess when you are like home,
was it across the whole horizon?
It was. It felt like it was right next to us, actually. Like you could keep going and see more sky on the other side of it. So it wasn't like all the way at the horizon. It was like right next to us. But it went the length, like as far back as I could see and as far forward as I could see. But apparently it was only on the right side. Like I was on the right side of the plane, and the pilot said, "If you look to your right," so I was lucky that I was on the right side, because I don't think it was on the left of us. Like we weren't flying through it, we were flying next to it.
Wow.
But the other fascinating thing in my personal world is that was the day I was flying back from Germany. So 11/11 was an extra 6 hours for me. Like I got 6 more hours. I had a 30-hour day on 11/11 when there were these northern lights. So I felt so lucky that day. But it is interesting when we think about like this. So I have 2 teenagers. I have a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old. And we had like a full moon. There was a beautiful full moon the last one that we had, which was about a week ago or a little more. Maybe it was a week and a half. And I have a telescope. And so I was out there because it was super moon, super close to it, and we had a clear sky. So I went out there and I had the telescope out, and I asked I'm texting my daughter, "Come and look at the moon. Come and look at the moon." Blah, blah, blah. And so she finally comes out and she looks at it, and oh my God, it's so bright. It's like burning our eyes. But anyway, it was all I could do to get her to come outside and look at the moon. Like she's just not interested in it. And so my kids were like in their phones, doing whatever, playing some game together. And I tapped their shoulder and I'm like, "Look at the northern lights, like look out the window." And they kind of roll their eyes, and then they're like, "Whoa." And it was, so my kids also not interested. Like when we talk about like being the the kind of black sheep, let's say. I definitely am interested in things that like my family's not interested in. I'm okay with that. But even my kids who are not into this and not easily impressed were like, whoa. So,
Reminds me of that title to that movie, Don't Look Up. You know that
oh
movie, Don't Look
yeah,
Up?
yes, yes.
It's like everyone's
Yeah,
looking down on their phones, like, don't look up. Like, if you look up, well, wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
You might panic. But yeah,
Yeah.
so I think that if we think about the bigger, because you were asking like, what do I make of it? And, I think from a bigger perspective, it is helping people to tap in to
Mhm.
there being more, to wanting to look up,
Mhm.
to, wow, what is this? Like, I've never seen this before. What is something changing? Is something big happening?
Mhm.
And
Why is it happening?
right. And so I think
Should
it's
I
an
pay attention to
invitation.
it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And what else might
Invitation.
there be out there that, that I'm not seeing every
Yeah.
day?
For a lot of people out there, and I've had many of them on the show, talking about the event, the big light event, where there's going to be a shift, an exponential shift in collective consciousness with a big light event. And I wonder, and I'm getting a yes from my mob. I've been wondering if this is a lead up to that. Some people are saying that it's not going to be one big event; it's going to be a series of smaller light events. But people have called it solar mass ejection, from the sun. Some people have called it like a spiritual light. Light is light is light, I suppose. But I think that this is definitely all part of that, all part of it. As you say, from a very practical level, it's getting people to pay attention to something outside their own needs and wants and desires, the ego wanting, and looking up into the cosmos and asking different questions like, what's happening? Why is this happening? What's going on? Or like, wow, that's beautiful. Just,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. And we had that with the total solar eclipse last year.
Mhm.
My house is on the line of the totality. So there were people flying in from all over to get to my town. And I just watched it in my backyard, and it was like in totality. And that was another experience that we all went through together where it was like, this was, I mean, it just felt like a unifying time, and it felt like something primordial about it, of just
Mm.
this like this it's such big like earth history,
When we're focused on something like that, on an eclipse, think about how it brings us more into unity, because it's not happening just to you personally.
Yeah.
Like you've lost your job, or your friend has died, or whatever. Whereas it's happening to a smaller group of people, it's happening to a larger collective. So you're all experiencing the same thing. So it brings us more into that collective consciousness, that unified consciousness. You're all experiencing the same thing. You might perceive it differently. That every astronomer, astrologer is telling you what it means.
Yeah.
Like, I love it how there's some sort of solstice eclipse and every astrologer gets online. This means this, and this means that, and this means this. It's like,
Right.
whatever. But regardless of what it means to you personally, everyone's experiencing the same thing. Like COVID was the same. We were all going through the same thing collectively. I don't think in the history of our planet had we been so unified in experiencing the same thing across the world.
Right.
Like, who
Yeah.
wasn't experiencing that? The lockdowns and the rollouts and the fear. Like, who wasn't? Were people living in jungles that had no access to social media or the internet? They weren't experiencing it. Like, who wasn't experiencing it? Yeah.
Yeah.
But Vladdy has a couple of questions here.
Yeah.
When and how did you start exploring your abilities? I'm assuming you mean abilities as in healing abilities. When and how did you start using your abilities? So would you say that you have the psychic abilities on tap, or healing abilities on tap? Like,
Yeah, I do more of the healing as like an official part of my offerings. The psychic things, it just shows up, and it's not really like I don't like have sessions with people because I don't feel like it's on tap. It just comes in.
Uh-huh.
And it was funny because somebody did call me psychic the other day, and I don't consider myself psychic. And it was kind of like, oh, and I guess based on what I was talking about, I was like, I guess that's true, but I just don't see myself that way because it
Right.
just it just comes through, and I just say things, and I'm not like I'm not following a
I'm
method
gonna
or
I'm gonna give you a tip. When you do start to see yourself, when you start to identify in that way, it becomes stronger and more
Mm,
reliable, user friendly, and you can turn it off and on at will. You become less of a what's the word I'm looking for? At the mercy of whoever is controlling it,
mhm.
whoever you think is controlling it. Uh, God, the universe, your soul, guides, and you become the master of it when you start, because identity is how we create, right? I am the
Yeah.
I am sick, I am poor, I am rich, I am spiritual, I am psychic. I am
Yeah.
psychic. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so when you start to identify with it and you start telling people, it becomes stronger and you become the master of it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. It hasn't been something that I've like trained or tried to undergo training or anything. So it's not really been on my radar for me, I guess, but it's been there. So um
Is that because you perceive being psychic as somebody who opens up shop and speaks to dead people or does readings?
I think I'm thinking of it more as like having readings. Yeah.
Yeah, because being psychic is that ability to be connected to your soul's plan, your soul
Yeah.
agenda, your spiritual guides, to have that clear guidance with your team or with your
Yeah.
higher self or your soul.
Well,
I
by
mean, that's
that
all.
definition, then
Yeah.
yes, I
Mhm.
would absolutely call myself psychic, but
Okay.
I think it's more in the like with others, like trying to give a reading or
Read
anything
for
like that.
others. Yeah.
Yes. But in terms of, yeah, the connection with my team and feeling that I loved what you were talking about with the creation, that aspect of kind of calling in what it is that, okay, let's, there's so many different aspects of ways that I tune into the energies of things and then kind of command and configure. And
Uh-huh.
um, for me, a lot of my abilities are to do with sacred geometry. That's a big piece of my which when you brought up Nadihana, I have taken a lot of Nadihana's offerings.
Mhm.
So I love that you brought her up because I never got a
Oh,
chance to meet her in person. We had a mutual
oh, she
connection.
is so special.
I know, and I wanted her to come on my show, and she
She's
was
here.
traveling. Yeah. Oh, she's here right now.
Oh, absolutely.
I feel
Mhm.
chills. Yeah. She is amazing, and I was going to invite her to come on the podcast, and I knew she was traveling to England at the time. She was doing some crop circle investigation,
Mhm.
and then
Special.
I didn't contact her at that time because I knew she was going to be away for like 3 weeks. So I was like, well, I'll let her, do that and come back. And then we never synced up, and I never invited her. But I had this is a little bit off topic. I'm going to come back to the how, but I think that we'll
I'm
stay
just
in
gonna
this
share
flow.
I'm just gonna share this. I just wanna honor her.
Yeah.
This is her for people who know. This is the
Oh,
webpage after the show I did with her.
yeah.
Yeah, cosmology, crop circles, and geometry. Yeah, a fascinating being, young woman who
Yeah.
decided to exit the matrix. Yeah, at a young age. I think she was only in her 40s. Everyone was so
Yeah.
upset,
I
but
think
I
she
always
had
say
turned
this.
50. I
Oh,
think she
really?
had turned
Oh,
50. I think
maybe.
so.
Everyone was so upset, but when you speak to people on the other side, they're never upset that they're dead. Like, they're just never
Yeah.
upset. Never, ever,
Yeah.
ever. And they
Yeah.
never feel like, as we do, like my life was cut short. I should have lived longer. They're like, nope, I came what I needed to do, and I left.
Well, It's been really interesting because there have been some recordings of hers that I've engaged with since her passing, and she makes comments about like kind of being done. And she did not take her life. She died of natural causes.
No, yeah.
But she makes these comments about like the Sri Yantra. And she was like, I am so drawn to this geometry, and I, feel like this connection, and I feel like it pulls me in. And there are kind of times where I'm like, like she kind of, I can't remember. I don't want to like misstate how she presented it, but it was something like she felt like it was going to pull her in and she was going to like transition, but she was like completely fine with that. So she was kind of making a joke about it. And this was a recording. She had a student, and the student was like, be careful what you wish for, because she was kind of saying like, she was kind of being flippant about like, well, I don't care. I'm okay with that. I'm ready,
Yeah.
So it is really, it's been fascinating because that was, I don't know how long before her transition, but she is, hi Mish. So she is,
She says you're not butchering what I'm saying. You're kind of on topic. She's just commenting that what you're saying about what she said is, she says you're not butchering it. You're not messing it up. It's
okay, good. I
not
want to
exactly
honor
what she said, but yeah.
But it was that good enough. Okay, good.
Good
Thank
enough.
you.
Mhm.
But she did inspire me. Because I had wanted, I don't even remember where this came from, but it was in the summer, this past summer that we just finished, summer here. And I wanted to learn how to draw the Sri Yantra. And I don't remember why. I don't remember where that came from. And I was like, I bet Nadi Hana's got something out there where I can learn.
So for people who don't know, what is the Sri Yantra?
Oh, it's like these nested triangles. There are like 9 triangles. 5 of them are going down and 4 of them are going up. And then they make like 60, they like make up 64 smaller triangles. And so it's a geometry. If you haven't heard of the Sri Yantra, you probably have seen it, but you just didn't know the name of it because it's around. It's
yeah. I just Googled it. This is the Sri
to pull it
Yantra.
up. Are you able to pull it up?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Can you see that? Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of Tibetan art depicts it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I love that you have brought her in, because in earlier that you brought her in because I did find this Sri Yantra video that she had that was online, and I learned from Nadi posthumously how to draw the Sri Yantra. And one of the things that she said is that she drew it every day for a week, I think. Is if I'm remembering correctly, she drew it every day for a week. But a friend of hers drew it every day for a month or 40 days or something like that. And I was intrigued by that. And when I drew it once, I wanted to draw it again the next day. And then I wanted to draw it again the next day. And then I was like, oh, I've done it 3 days. Now I'm going to do it. And I just kind of kept drawing it every day. And I ended up drawing it every day for, I think it was about 40 days.
Wow.
And I was kind of wondering like, oh, could I do this for a month? Because I just kind of kept doing it. And I didn't really but I was inspired by what she had said, because she was like, this is just the type of thing. It just works with your brain. And I can't tell you what it's going to do, but it just does what needs to be done.
It's funny that she said, I can't tell you what it's going to do. It just does what, because I asked her, what does it do? And she gave me an answer. But before I tell you what she said, what did it do for you? What did you experience?
It's been really fascinating because I could feel like neural connections happening between the right and left sides of my brain. Like I could feel this unification, not only when I was drawing it, but when I was meditating with it, because I was doing open-eyed meditations. And I was seeing the geometry shifting, like as I was meditating, where it was like popping out, almost like a magic eye kind of thing. And but it even started, I noticed it started coming into my dreams where I might see the actual geometry in my dreams, but even more than that, I was noticing right when I would wake up, I was like, oh my God, there were all these long hallways. There were these sharp turns, and the rooms that I was in were all really long rooms, like unusually long rooms. And I'm like, oh, I was in the geometry. So it's like the geometry was becoming so imprinted in my consciousness that even the dreams were like reflecting the shape itself, like the geometry itself. I don't know how much sense that makes, but that was literally my experience, and it happened many times.
Vladdy
So
says he's going to, I guess I'll try it out as well. And Mish says amplify. Yes, in a way, amplify. So what she said when I said, what does it do? Is she said it's a portal. And I said, a portal to what? And she said, it's a portal to specific information. And I said, information about what? And she said, information about the architecture of the universe. The structure of the universe, the structure of all things. When she says the universe, the structure of all things. The structure of all things. So it's a portal into specific information. So we can have portals into, you can create a portal, like you could be somebody who wants to open up shop as a psychic and speak to dead people. Different portal into different information, into different dimensions, right? So it's taking you into a specific funnel of a portal, a funnel of information, a deep. So it's interesting that Tibetans sort of depict it on a lot of their art and clothing and stuff like that. And the Buddhists, I suppose, Tibetans are Buddhists. Okay. I'm thinking of, and the Hindus, Indian tradition, that depict it in a lot of their art. It kind of goes back to creation, into the architect, the structure, the architecture of life, of the universe, of all things.
love that.
Whoa. So
Wow.
Vladdy says, I guess I'm going to try it out. It's like, is that the sort of information you're looking for? Like, is that how deep you want to go? And sounds like that on a subconscious level, yes, that's where you want, that's where you want it to go. Yep,
Yeah.
I want this information.
Right. And, I love the openness of that as well, of what came through, because that, portal, I think it is a portal. And I have found that it keeps going. And in fact, like, in terms of like, what did it do for you? I don't think that there was like one thing it did. Those were examples of how I could feel it, the connections happening in my mind, and how I could notice it in my dreams. I didn't notice it while I was dreaming. It was like, as soon as I woke up, I was like, oh my God, I was in it. But it has continued to keep going, even though I stopped, I think in September was when I stopped really doing the Sri Yantra. But it continues. I've had this really interesting past life come up. And it's related to, that started with a dream as well, but then it was, more was getting unlocked while I was having a massage, funnily enough. There was some somatic element to it. And then it was related to this college boyfriend from, I was in college at the turn of the century, literally. So this was like
At the turn of the century.
in the late 90s. So a long time ago. But, it was related to that. And then actually learning later that the massage therapist had done this archaeological dig in Greece, in the only island that I'm connected with in this life, Crete. There have been, anyway, it's like a long story. And if I were to go into it, it'd be what we would talk about for the rest of the time. So I won't like go into all the details, but it's been something that's been unpacking over time. It's actually been over the last month. But one of the elements of that is that my massage therapist, because I believe now that we were both priestesses in a Greek temple in ancient Greece. Excuse me. And she did an archaeological dig in the late 90s in Crete at a temple of the divine feminine where multiple temples have been built on top of over time. So the original temple was to the divine feminine. And then she was like sharing information, like kind of drip feeding me as she was remembering.
Mhm.
And she said, "Oh, there was a lot. What I remember is there was a lot of sacred geometry in like the original temple." And I, you know, I'm love to draw sacred geometry. I'm very like I see sacred geometry. That's one of the first kind of supernatural things that I saw in my mind's eye was sacred geometry.
Mhm.
Um, and that's one of the easiest things for me to kind of see clairvoyantly is our geometric patterns. And so, sorry. So that So I was talking about this on another podcast. It might have even been my podcast, and I was talking with a guest, I can't remember. And I was sharing about a little bit about the experience and the sacred geometry connection and the Sri Yantra. And they were like, "Oh, well, is it from the Sri Yantra that you had this experience?" And I was like, "I didn't think about it until just now." Like
Right. Yeah, I
it
didn't put
has,
two and two
you know,
together.
right.
Mm.
But I think that I believe that it did open this portal into this other lifetime and because there's also been a lot of healing around that too. So
Absolutely. Kristen says here, the Sri Yantra is my favorite sacred geometry mandala. It came to me in a vision, animated and moving long before I knew anything about it. I have a pendant I wear often with it on. And Vladdy said here, I wonder if there is a way to figure out which geometry is most useful for us in specific moments. And when you ask that question, Vladdy, what they're showing me, and I'm going to say Nadi, when I say she's here at the forefront of this conversation, and she said before when you were talking, I didn't want to interrupt you. She said it's so much fun being on the podcast with you gals.
oh, I finally got to have her on the
She
podcast.
said, "Here you are. Your desire has been," because she's here.
Oh my
But anyway, she said it's like a key. It's like a key. And they showed me it's like you unlock a door to a library of information, and where you like which book you open is up to you. Like Vladdy's saying specific. Like what do you want to look at? You want to look at the meaning to life, the architecture of the cell. Do you want to look at the architecture of your soul, the architecture of your human lives? So that could go into past lives. It's like that library that's beyond the Akashic, because when we think about the Akashic, we just think about life experience, like past life, future lives. We don't think about the library extending outside of me and my experience, and it's sort of unlocking a door to this library, which has all the books. Again, the library is an analogy, but just trying to put it in English human terms. Yeah, it's like a key that unlocks a portal into specific information. How specific do you want to get? Like, where do you want to go? But again, you get to choose which book you open and read from. So interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. And I feel that intentionality is such a part of it as well. Sorry, that keeps happening.
Don't apologize. You're allowed to cough.
It keeps catching me like when I breathe.
It's very cool.
But for me, there is this intentional piece to it. And so if there is something in particular that you want to work on,
Yes.
then putting that intention like before you start working with it, and whether you learn how to draw it or you print it off and you color it, or you print it
Wear it
off
on a
and
pendant.
you wear it on a pendant.
Just your focus upon it, your attention to it.
Right.
Yeah, creation is about, we're running out of time. Creation is about attention. There's this saying that the road to hell is paved with all good intention. So you can have the intention to do something, like I intend on losing weight, and all I think about is how fat I am. So where is your attention? I'm saying that because that's personal. to me, not to you, but to me. Where is your attention? So they're saying that the attention is the more powerful, like putting your attention upon it. So yeah, drawing it, having it as a pendant, looking at it, having an art piece of artwork in your house, putting it on your clothes, and a mandala. Yeah. So we've got about 15 minutes to go. Actually, we've got about 10 minutes to go. I wanted to get into the ETs because you talk a lot to people who talk about extraterrestrial life, a non-human intelligence, off-world beings. Like, where are you with that at the moment?
So I actually I've seen some craft, like when I've been in Sedona, for example. I saw my first, well, I think it was the first craft that I've seen just recently, actually, at my home, which was it was not close enough that I could see the craft itself, but it was a light that was shining and it would disappear. Like it would get really bright and then start to dim, and then it completely disappeared, but it was moving while it was doing this, and then it went right back to where it started, and it did that again. So like got brighter as it was moving, got dimmer, disappeared, and then again showed up back in the same spot where it started. So that was like, okay, well, that's not a plane or a satellite, that's something else. But my experiences with extraterrestrials personally have been telepathic, and they tend to be in the hypnagogic state, or some people call it the hypnagogic state. And so I've had different experiences. I've had some physical experiences where I have felt my chakras vibrating so palpably that I am, it seems what I kind of perceive with my inner sight, or, it is that there is some sort of device that is above me, but I can't see it with like when I open my eyes, I don't see beings there. I don't see a device, but it's like I can palpably feel this vibration that's happening in the chakras. And it goes one chakra at a time. They're not going at the same time. But there have been different experiences where I have felt things so physically in my body with my eyes closed that I actually kind of had to test myself a little bit. This was probably about a year ago, where I was like, I could like feel things physically, and my eyes were closed, and I was like, there very well could be ETs like working on me physically right now. And I knew I was in my bed because I could feel like my bed under me. But I wasn't sure I wanted to open my eyes, because as much as I love the topic of ETs, and as much as curious as I am, and as much as I firmly believe and accept that they're part of my divine team, I was like, I don't know. Actually, if I open my eyes and I see like a praying mantis in front, like above me or something,
a 9-foot tall bug,
right? Like, am I going to be able to be cool about that? And I was like, I'm not sure. I did dare myself to open my eyes. I did it, and I couldn't see anything, but it was so palpable. I have actually heard a praying mantis in my ear. And that was when I thought that they were like the bad guys, if we want to have big sweeping, like good and bad and so forth. But like, I thought they were like, now I have a different view of them. I think that they're a very important part of creation, and they're very high vibrational. But at that point, I thought they were on, something to be afraid of. And I heard this in my ear, like I heard it with my ears, like
your ears,
on
your
one
outside
side.
ears.
Yes. And I did open my eyes. They flew open, because it was such a strong sound that I was like, I didn't know. I thought that there was like a bug, right there. And then I was like, oh my God, was that a praying mantis? That was a praying mantis messing with me. Oh my God, and
That's a praying mantis messing with me.
Yeah, I'm like, hey,
I'm getting this image, Kara. I just have to tell you what they're showing me.
please,
I'm
yeah.
getting this image of a praying mantis. If you could see him smiling, he would be smiling, but he's not smiling. But I'm getting holding up a poster of the Sri Yantra, like holding it.
Oh, you've given me
And
so many chills. Oh my goodness.
and I'm like, of course, because I always call them the architects, like the
Oh my
architects of the,
gosh.
they're a part of the architects of many
Yes.
worlds, like they're there for the creation of many worlds, both in the physical construct, but in the social construct as well. Yeah, so he's
Wow.
holding this picture of the Sri Yantra, this bug. I
Oh
know
my
it's weird that
gosh.
they look like a bug. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're highly ancient, highly evolved beings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now
Mhm.
I feel so honored when I feel that there is, a connection or that
Mhm.
I'm like, please work on me. But back then I didn't know. And I
Absolutely.
was just like, what? But I've had different experiences like that. I have no memories of being like on a
Mm.
ship, but there have been times where I can clairvoyantly see I'm always in my bed, and I've never had where I know my physical body is no longer in the bed because I
Mhm.
check back in. I'll start to see things and I'll get like absorbed in what I'm seeing clairvoyantly, and then I'll come back and I'm like, okay, wait, am I still in my bed or am I somewhere else? Um, but I will see, like, I'll even have my eyes open, but I'll start to see corridors. And so I'm like, I think part of like my energy body's on a ship sometimes, because I can see these corridors and that's what I would think that I would see. Or what that would represent, I guess. Maybe I'm in the Sri Yantra. I don't know. But I can
Wow.
definitely see corridors. But so there are, and it's not always just the praying mantis. I have seen other or felt connections with other things in that state, but that's how it works for me, is that it tends to be telepathic. There tends to be some physical feelings within the body too. um I feel that they work a lot behind the scenes. It's not so easy. Like, I don't get
Definitely.
names. I don't get, a lot of people work directly with beings and they know, but for me it feels like I don't access them that way.
Whoa. Well, we've only got 3 minutes to go. God, that's gone so quickly. I'm going to go back. I've just scrolled back up to a question that Vladdy asked. He's going to start his own podcast show soon, aren't you, Vladdy? Ask good questions. In the 3 minutes that we've got left, what do you feel the audience needs to know right now? He asked these great questions.
I
Like
love that.
before we go, what do you want to leave with the audience?
I think we've covered some great ground.
Mm.
And one of the pieces that stands out for me is that we do have this kind of separation of this new consciousness, this new experience that we're having on this planet. I know that I'm a part of this and that I have one foot in each world, and that's not always easy. Um, and so it's really, I think, so helpful for us to come together like this and to reinforce for each other that we are having this experience and we're all such an important part of it. And it's okay if not everybody is coming along with it, and that we're still seeing that kind of duality. Um, that's what I think, that's so strong for me right now. And it can feel frustrating at times, but I just kind of want to offer that's where I am. And
Well,
I
I
am
love that
excited. And
you're doing what you're doing, and I'm just going to show people who are watching the video your Soul Elevation podcast. You can find it on where all good podcasts are, audio podcasts, and also on YouTube. This is the YouTube. And you've had some fabulous guests. You've had Regina on. Somebody asked me to put Regina on the show a couple of years ago, and I reached out to her and she said, yeah, fine. And it was when I was recording and she didn't show up. And so I rescheduled, and I never got her on the show. But yeah,
Oh.
Regina Meredith, you've had some wonderful guests and more to come, I suspect. And just to remind people to stop screen of your book. Where is it? Here we go. I've got it here somewhere. Here we go. Because you put it all in a book.
Yes.
And you can find that on the link to the webpage I've created for Kara. Goodwin, Your Authentic Awakening, A Guide to Everyday Spiritual Living. Kara Goodwin, forward by, who is that?
Maureen Saint Germain.
Germain. Ah, beautiful. Founder of the Saint Germain Mystery Schools. Yeah, you're doing amazing work. Amazing work.
Thank you.
I want to honor you for everything that you're doing because 10 years. You've had the awakening in 2016. It's amazing that 2016 is almost a decade ago, isn't it?
It's like crazy.
It's just gone so quickly.
Yeah. And Mish is asking, Karen is a guest. We've already recorded it. It will be out around Christmas time. So
yeah, I was on Kara's show. Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
But she records, like this is a live show, so people, it's different. And she records and then edits and uploads later. I used to do that. But thank you, everybody, for your great questions. Thanks to Glenn Flatty for all your great questions. He's got a question here. We've run out of time. Do colors matter when drawing sacred geometry?
I think follow your intuition.
Follow your gut. Yeah. And thanks again, Kara. It's been beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Nadi Hana, for joining us. What a joy. Yes,
thanks for being on the show again, Nadi. She's had so much fun being on the podcast with you gals. And she said, invite her on your show anytime. She'd be happy to be there. In fact, she's saying, channel me, Kara, channel me. You know, you can.
This is giving me so many chills again. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Big love to everyone. Gotta go. Bye for now. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.